Hey everyone, thanks for watching. I'm gonna have a very exciting talk for you today. There's a couple of topics that come up a lot in real estate investing these days. One is apartment syndication and the other is partnerships. And we're lucky enough to have with us Julie Lamb today, who is going to be talking about both. She actually just gave a talk up the road for me in Palo Alto yesterday. So maybe we'll pick at that a little bit as well. But let's welcome Julie to the show. How you doing this morning or this afternoon, Julie?
Doing really good. Thanks so much for having me, Michael.
Of course. So why don't you quickly introduce yourself, Good Egg Investments, and then we'll kind of dive in from there.
Sure. Yeah. So my name is Julie Lamb, and I've been investing in real estate since 2009 here in San Francisco in the Bay Area where I live. It was a good time for me to get in. I kind of fell into it accidentally. I was doing the traditional narrative of get married and buy a home because that's what we're taught to do to grow our wealth. And it just so happened that for me, it was the right time. And so 2009, bought our first rental property, bought another property in 2010, and then we exited both of those properties in 2014, 2016. And we were trying to figure out what the highest and best use of our money would be. I think traditionally most people, as they move up in their careers and they grow up a little bit, they look at buying a bigger house and getting themselves into more debt. And as we were going down that road, we decided that that was not the right path for us and quickly got out of our loan and decided not to buy this nice big home here in the Bay Area. And instead, I started investing in cash flowing rentals out of state. So I started buying single family homes, some smaller duplexes, Michigan, Indiana, Texas. It was great. It was just a whole bunch of work that I wasn't really anticipating. So did that and then realized that if I wanted to get to a point of financial freedom, that I would have to quit my job or want to quit my job, that I would have to get into multifamily to scale. So that's kind of how I got into multifamily. I started out as a passive investor first, and then skipped over to the general partnership side. And that's how I got to do what I do now, which is helping other operators put together their deals by bringing investors to their deals. So, and that's what we do at Good Egg Investments. We basically educate investors and we help them identify opportunities to invest in and help them create some passive income streams.
Very, very cool. Lots of stuff there we're going to unpack, but let's first address this. You said Good Egg Investments in we, so let's give a shout out to your partner.
Yes, Annie Dickerson. Couldn't do anything I do without her. She's an amazing person, super smart, very talented, amazing at what she does, and is a nice person to boot. So yeah, really
the other half of Good Egg Investments, if you will. Very, very cool. Well, first off, sometimes in life you have very good timing. And I would say buying a couple of properties in the Bay Area in 2009 and 2010 were pretty darn good. So congratulations.
Yeah.
Equally awesome is that you recognize it was time to get out kind of on the run up. 14 may have been a little early, 16 was awesome. And then again, right, you looked at, okay, what are we going to do? Are we going to buy something bigger in the Bay Area, which, oh, by the way, is not really that much bigger. It's not like Texas bigger, right? It's like, oh, we go from 2,000 square feet to 2,800 and okay, the lot's 6,500 versus 4,800 or whatever it is, right? Bay Area is weird that way.
Yeah.
But so you went out of state. So talk about that, because that's something I've never done. I chose a market in California, but in Central Valley was my market of choice. So I never had to leave. So talk about, just from being able to drive around and seeing your properties to now states away. What was that kind of like?
Yeah, so instead of driving around and seeing the properties, I would make my rounds on Bigger Pockets, which I'm sure your listeners are familiar with that website. And if not, please do yourself a favor and head to Bigger Pockets. So much valuable information there. But I sort of, did my quote driving around on Bigger Pockets, so to speak. And so I started networking with a ton of people and just started asking folks, where are they investing, chiming in forums, and just talking to people, trying to find out, where the good cash flow deals are. That wasn't just cash flow, but a little appreciation as well. And I, it boiled down to those three markets. And so I started then honing in on those markets and just started networking with people there and talking with, property managers, investors, brokers, real estate agents, anyone who would talk to me about what's happening in those markets. And I started, just buying properties from folks who were either wholesalers or, actual property management companies who also had a brokerage arm of their company. And I would buy these properties sight unseen, My husband, when I told my husband that I just, dropped $50,000 on this little rental property, to give money to a person I never met, to buy a house I never saw, he was a little worried. I think he thought I was going off the deep end, but it wasn't until I think it was when he started to see the money coming into the bank account. He's like, okay, let's talk some more about this. But I would say that I did a lot of my due diligence, so to speak, virtually. And I would look things up on Google Maps. I would, depend a lot on my conversations with other people. And so I would say that, a big piece to getting to where you're trying to go within real estate is networking. I really think that's such an undervalued thing within real estate, because you don't know what you don't know when you first get into real estate, and there is so much to learn. It's a risky business, and when you network with people and talk with folks, you learn so much more in a short amount of time. And so that's essentially what I was able to do, was learn about these properties and learn about these markets through conversations with other investors and real estate professionals in those markets. So
yeah. The thing that you've sort of said without saying is you were also not only networking very well, but you were probably tying together the stories, right? You would never rely on one person's opinion, but when you get
Correct.
7 kind of ulterior views and they all kind of tie around the middle, it's like, okay, I'm feeling better, right? Did you actually ever fly out and see Michigan, Indiana, or Texas, or never did?
I did after I bought the properties.
Okay.
I did. I flew out there. I did a bunch of renovations on the properties. And then, I don't know, maybe 4 or 5 months after we completed the renovations and they were rented out and whatnot, I took a flight out there and did a tour and took a look.
Yeah, that's interesting, because I've heard lots of people, maybe it's a now thing versus when you were doing it. A lot of people are looking out of state, right? Better returns, cap rates, whatever you want to call that. But they're being at least enamored by turnkey providers. It sounds like you actually got networked with wholesalers, so you were quote unquote buying junk.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. And my thing is always like, I want to get the best deal, and I wanted to get something that was the least amount of risk, highest amount of return. Not necessarily least amount of risk with working with a wholesaler, but definitely, potential to be a lot more.
Yeah. So you did take on more risk. Let's be clear, right? Because you were taking on the general contracting risk, right? The repair risk. Which I'm sure, we have lots of stories there, I'm sure. But yeah, you were looking for the maximum upside, maximum bang for the buck. So totally get it. And again, you were comfortable with that. Not everybody is, right? Some people are like, I don't want to do draws or cut checks every 2 weeks and get pictures and they want to buy just a finished product. So I get it. And to be clear, I was like you. I bought cheap, right? I bought cheap. I didn't buy done or pretty. I bought cheap. And it worked out. So makes total sense. So then you get to a point, at what point, how many houses did you have? And you're like, kind of fun, but can't retire on this. And you said, let's go multi. Where were you at when that decision was made?
3. I had 3.
So you had 1 in each state?
Yeah, I had 1 in each state.
Oh, I thought we had several in each state. We had 1 in Michigan, 1 in Indiana, and 1 in Texas. So you had no scale. Oh, now I get it. And you're like, okay. So did you 1031 out of those into multifamilies? What was that leap like?
Nope. I still have them.
Oh, you still have them. Okay.
I still have 2 of the 3. Yeah. I sold one of them, but it was just a huge headache. That's a whole nother podcast episode. We can talk about that one.
Horror stories. Yeah. Well, another story, another podcast.
Yeah. But no, I hung on to them, and they're doing great. They're cash doing great, and don't give me a lot of headaches, and so I hang on to them.
Very cool.
So it's kind of like people, don't give me a lot of headaches, hang on to them. Give me a lot of headaches, sorry,
gone.
See you later.
Out of here. You get one chance. Oh, branch broke. You're done. Go away. Totally get that. All right. So now let's talk about that transition to multi, because that can mean lots of things, right? Is that just a duplex or a quad, still residential? Or are you going 10, 15, 20? What are we talking about?
Yeah, so I wanted to get into large multifamily, like
Okay.
200 units and up,
Woo.
right?
Okay.
And yeah, and as I got into looking into that, I realized very early on that there was going to be a whole lot of work for one person, me, to do. Everything from, building out those broker relationships to, raising equity to asset managing to, the list goes on and on.
Mm-hmm.
And so I realized that as a newbie and not knowing anything about the apartment space, it was going to take me a while. There's a learning curve there,
Yeah.
and also to build those relationships, right?
Okay.
And so it was around that same time when I discovered the opportunity to be a passive investor in a multifamily deal. And so that actually was how I transitioned. Was I
Okay.
became a passive investor in my first apartment syndication, and that was in 2016. And it was a game changer, total game changer for me as a mom. 3 young kids at the time. They were 5, 4, and 3, 2. And life was crazy. I was working
Yeah.
full time, and to be able to leverage the money I had, and not have to do any work outside of the due diligence I did up front, and to be able to earn like an 8 to 10% return for doing nothing, and still share in the tax benefits and all of the equity on the back end. There's nothing like that. I was looking at buying properties here in the Bay Area as like smaller multis. I would have been lucky in 2016 if I was going to cash flow 3 to 5%, on the money I had in. So if someone's telling me I'm going to, be in a market like Dallas Fort Worth that has potential long-term, appreciation and cash flow today, and they're going to pay me 8 to 10%, I don't need to do anything. That I've jumped on that. So that was a game changer for me. And that's how I got to doing what I do now. Was I just became really passionate about the opportunity that afforded for specifically mothers with young children to be able to offset their income and be able to focus on doing whatever it is they love, even if they love their job, don't want to quit, if they're stay-at-home mom and they want to spend more time with their kids, but to be able to add to the financial household and add financially, it's a big powerful thing for me. So yeah.
Very cool. So let's talk about that first deal. It's always fun. So how many units? What was the kind of value add play? Have you been cashed out already? Are you still getting monthly checks? What was the full story of that first investment where you were the passive investor?
Yeah, so that deal was B-class property, value add, in the Dallas Fort Worth area. I'm still in that deal. I think it was about 250 unit apartment building, and didn't fly out to see it initially. I just I took a look at the investment summary, Googled it, took a look to see if the neighborhood and see where it's at, and did some research on the submarket. That deal, when I went into it, I was told it was going to be a 5-year hold, which is the
Okay.
standard in syndicated deals. And let's see, so after the first for 12 months of owning it, I got my 8% preferred return, which is what I was projected. And then at the end of every 12 months, these operators will look to see if there was additional income over and above what was paid to the passive investors. And if there was, they'll split it 70% to the passive investors and 30% to the general partners. And so after that first 12 months of owning it, I got an additional bonus of 2%. So I actually cash flowed 10% that first year. And then I got a nice K1 that reflected our cost segregation study that we did, which is a way to accelerate depreciation into the early years of owning the property. So I cash flowed 10% all year, but then I get to tell the IRS I actually lost money, right? So
Yes.
didn't pay any taxes on that. And then about 2 months after that first year of owning it, we were told that we were going to get a refinance, and that they were doing a refinance. And so they refinanced out over 40% of my initial investment, while I still earned the same as if my entire, let's say I invest $100,000. So they gave me back 40,000, but then I'm still getting a return based on that 100,000. So then I
Nice.
took 40,000, I reinvested it into a new deal. I'm essentially earning 16 to 20% cash returns on that money that they, refinanced out. So, all in all, knock on wood, that was a slam dunk home run deal. Not all of them have been like that, but that was the best one I've done so far. So
Very, very cool. So again, you do this, you have experience, clearly a risk taker, right? Going from 3 single family homes in 3 different states to I want to tackle the 200 unit apartment market. You go,
yeah,
girl. Good. Awesome. So now you see the power, right? You saw the checks, you saw the returns, you see the K1, you realize the IRS doesn't get their cut. Awesome. and you step up, and this is when you create Good Egg Investments?
No, so I had actually had my other company, Lamb Capital Group, prior to creating Good Egg Investments.
Okay.
That was around the time in 2017, about 7 months after I had done my first investment as a passive. I was offered the opportunity to join the general partnership side. And I was so excited because this is what I loved, you know, having those investor conversations, educating investors. But at the same time, I'm able to join the general partnership side. And I'm also still investing as a limited partner as well. So when you think about the, you know, the returns on that as a limited partner, it was like, okay, I get to do what I love to do, but now I get to share, you know, in the general partnership returns side of it as well. And so it's a, you know, amazing return for just doing what I love. But that was how I made that transition from being a limited partner, jumping over to the general partnership side, was, you know, providing additional investor equity to the operators deals.
Very, very cool. So you Lamb Capital, I get that right? Was the before Good? Okay. Then so you do Lamb Capital, and then when does Good Egg Investments come around? How does that start?
Sure. Yeah. So I did my first deal on my own in July of 2017. Did my second deal in December of 2017, and my third deal I did in March of 2018.
Okay.
And then I met my business partner in February at the Best Ever Conference in Denver. Highly recommend it for anyone who's interested in multifamily real estate investing. Tons of, you know, high quality people attend that event. And I met her there last February, and we kind of hit it off at the event. Didn't really talk about a partnership, but she lives here in Oakland, and we thought, you know, when we get back to the Bay, let's meet up and, you know, do a work session. And I was raising for that third deal last year, and that was when, you know, thoughts about a partnership sort of started to spark. And really that came from, you know, her interests are really in, you know, marketing and YouTube videos and thought leadership platforms. And she really didn't want to do the investor calls. And it was just like this puzzle piece that kind of came together. And it was like, maybe a partnership might make sense. You love to do all the things I don't want to do, and vice versa. And that was pretty much how Good Egg was born. Was we thought, you know, we're both trying to do the same thing. She was trying to do a lot of the equity raising similar to what I had already done, and I brought a lot of insight, you know, to the table from the deals I had already done. I sort of knew what we needed to do, and, you know, we hopped into bed together, so to speak, and did Good Egg Investments. And you know, here we are. And over the last let's see, less than a year, because it was May that we officially formed, we've closed about 8 deals together.
Very, very cool. Wow. So 8 deals, money raised, over $1 million, I'm guessing, a couple $1 million.
Oh, total since we've been together, we're nearing the 10 million mark right now. That's
pretty awesome. Very, very cool. Yeah. So again, let's talk about the power let's talk about the you know, the people loaning the money, right? Have a conversation with them, right? Because you know, they have a lot of people in the Bay Area are about to be really, really rich. I don't know if you've heard, right? We're gonna have all these IPOs. So if somebody watching this is about to be IPO rich, you know, what's the kind of conversation you would want to have with them about why they should be a part of one of these apartment deals?
Yeah. So, I mean, really, you know, when you think about who is this investment for, it's really built for the person who doesn't have a lot of time, but has a lot of money. Yep. So it's not built for the person who wants to go out there and learn how to, you know, own apartment buildings. I mean, it could be, you know, and that's how I learned. If you had an interest and you know, were really busy, you could start off that way as a passive. But I would say ideally the investment is really built for high net worth investors, accredited investors. And accredited essentially means, you know, your net worth is $1 million or over, excluding your primary residence, or your income is 200,000 or more as an individual, or 300,000 or more as a couple. And so really these investments are built for people who have a lot of money, not so much time. And why would you want to invest in these deals? Well, you know, you could go out there and you could buy rental properties like I did, and you could spend a lot of time and effort. Even though you have a property management company on the ground, there's still, let me tell you, I still own my properties, and there's nothing more I hate than getting these emails telling me the toilet's broken and they had to spend X dollars to fix it. It's just kind of a pain in the butt to know about that kind of stuff. And so it's really, you know, built for someone who wants to have their money go to work for them so that they don't have to work as hard, or, you know, a better way to grow your wealth quickly. I mean, in any one of these deals, essentially most times the average return is to double your money. So to 2 times your money over the whole period. So imagine if you invested $1 million, you could have $2 million in, 3 to 5 years. So not a bad return for not doing, very much. So I would say it's a great way to grow your wealth passively without having to do a lot of work in what I think is a very resilient asset class in the event of a downturn. We all know we're not, at the bottom. It's not 2009. Are we at the top? Who knows? I thought we were at the top at 2016, and here we are almost 3 years later. And, there's signs of slowing, but who knows, right? So, at the end of the day, multifamily, everyone's always going to need a place to live. And more importantly, people are going to need an affordable place to live. And that's exactly the space that we play in. So we don't do anything A-class luxury, and we also don't do anything that's, super old properties that need a lot of deferred maintenance work. So, yeah.
Yeah, a lot of stuff there again to unpack. First and foremost, stay away from Park Place and Boardwalk, the super class A stuff. It's, it's nice to drive by, but generally not good to own, right? There's no return there. Also avoiding the, whatever you want to call it, the C class, the Baltic and the Mediterranean, I think it is on the Monopoly board. But when you stay in the, the light blues to orange to yellows, that's where the majority lives. And I've invested through a downturn because I started in 2003. So I rode the wave up, saw the crash coming, got out of the way of it and saw the crash. So if you stay in the affordable space, the people that are up here move down, and, everybody needs a place to live. Apartments are a great place to go when people lose their houses. So it is very resilient. And if you're doing the due diligence on your market, like you talked about Dallas earlier, Texas is a great place to invest in, right? Very job friendly. It's not like California, right? That's sort of anti companies, at least it seems like. Right. So very, very, very smart. And the other thing we didn't even mention, right? We sort of talked about it in passing, double your money during the hold period, but also you're getting, if you're doing it in the right way, you're also getting tax savings, right? The depreciation and, the K1 and all of that.
Mm-hmm.
That's standard, right?
Right. Yeah. And so, that's going back to what I had mentioned earlier. This is perfect for someone who believes in the power of real estate, wants to get into real estate investing, is thinking about maybe buying a single family home out of state. But why? Why would you want to go through all that trouble when you can just invest in a syndication and not have to deal with all of that headache and not have to deal with the day-to-day management and potentially stand to earn more for doing nothing, just for leveraging your money,
All right, so let's talk about an investor looking at this who is in that situation. Hey, I can go buy 10 houses in Cleveland. I'm just picking on Cleveland just because. Or I could be a part of an apartment syndication in Cleveland just to make it as apples to apples as possible. One thing is you're going to have more daily phone calls and headaches and drama, as we both know, being landlords. But talk about being a part of a syndication, right? You're one of 10 or 20 partners, right? So life happens all over, even to rich people. So, talk about what happens if, hey, investor 19 needs to get out, right? Mm-hmm. There's probably some first right of refusals and pieces to offer, but why don't we just talk about some of the, that kind of stuff?
Yeah. So, it really varies from deal to deal, but you can have anywhere from, 10 people in a deal all the way on up to, I would say on the last deal we did, we, raised close to 15 million. So, you could have average investor invest maybe 50 to 200,000. So there's maybe 100, 150 people in the deal. So backing up just a little bit, whenever I talk with investors at the very beginning, I let them know that this is a very illiquid investment.
Yep.
So this is not, I tell them if you have any thought at all that you may need this money for anything, vacation, sabbatical, fix your house, you want to buy your own apartment building, any of that, this is not the investment for you. So that being said, though, if our investors were to get themselves into a situation or something was to happen in their personal lives, because stuff happens, where they needed to get their money out, and this varies from operator to operator, but from what I understand, and we do this, and I don't know if this is just how we operate or if this is really an SEC requirement, but if something happened in your personal life where you needed to get your investment out, we would work with you to either, find someone to buy you out, or we would just buy you out ourselves. And so, you would obviously lose your position in the investments. You wouldn't be entitled to any equity moving forward, and you would just, pull out of the deal, get your money out, void the PPM, and, you're done. And so that's kind of what that might look like. And that's happened once across all the deals that we've done. Sadly, we had one of our investors, her mother got very ill with cancer, and she needed to get her money out. She was traveling back to Korea. And so, we worked with her
Yeah.
to get her money out. And, that's what you do.
Yeah. Yeah. And again, right, I wasn't trying to trip you up or anything. I was just trying to highlight that life events happen, and you're absolutely right. Positioning it as you did is exactly the right thing to do. Very illiquid. Don't count on it. Put it on the shelf. Never look at it. But hey, your mom gets sick and you need to be a good daughter or son. We'll work, won't be fast. I'm sure it wasn't like yesterday, but we will work to do the right things, because this is still a people business and reputations matter and all of that.
That's right. Absolutely. Mm-hmm.
Very cool. So I'm curious, what's good egg investments look like? Cause you're doing so much now. I mean, I see all over social media, your partner is just crushing it. It seems like she gets all the credit for that social media side. So nice work, Annie. Woohoo.
Yeah.
But what does it look 3 to 5 years out?
I mean, we were just talking about that. We just got back from the Tony Robbins UPW event. I don't know if you've ever been, but an amazing, amazing event. And we were just talking about, where do we want to see ourselves down the road? And, as I mentioned, one of our interests is helping mothers and helping them learn about finances and real estate investing. And I've had a pretty positive impact on a lot of the local mothers here in the Bay Area through mothers groups. And, it's just chiming in mothers groups talking about alternatives to college savings plans. So someone will talk about, the 529 plan, and I'll talk about how I'm using these syndications to save for my children's college, not the only way, but another way that I'm, using that. And, what's happened is I've got a lot of interest. I didn't really know. At first, I was just, and this is what Tony Robbins was talking about. He's like, when you come from a place of contribution and serving, people come, and and that's kind of how I gained my interest. And so, really what I think we want to do is be able to take what we've done here and how the impact we've been able to have here in the Bay Area, and, take that across the nation and, reach as many people as we can. And the ways that we're looking to do that is, by speaking at more events, holding our own events. Next January, we'll be holding an event out in Denver, a women's only real estate investing, all female panel, speaking for the whole day. We're doing books, we're going to do a podcast, and we're just really going to try to create a community for women to learn about real estate investing. As I'm sure you know, real estate investing is a very male-dominated industry. It doesn't scare us, doesn't bother us, but we think that there are a lot of other women out there who are afraid to get into real estate investing because of that. And so one of our goals is to help, demystify what real estate investing is about, and to sort of break down those barriers by creating community. I think women, learn much differently than men. And I think that once they find that sense of community, they feel very comfortable, and that, their mind opens up and they're more interested in learning. And so that's one of our goals, is to be able to do that. So yeah, lots on the table.
That's very cool. And you're absolutely right. I mean, I looked at my YouTube channel the other day, the analytics, right? And I'm not an analytics person, but I'm like, oh, what's going on? And I was frightened to see that 98% of the viewers are men.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So I looked at that going, well, darn it, I must be doing something wrong, right? Am I a sexist pig, or am I, whatever? So it's kind of internal monologue going, what the heck? But there's nothing about real estate investing that is, has to be male, right? It's not a strength-based investment, right? You don't have to be strong, right?
Yeah.
No. So, I mean, absolutely right. I applaud you for your efforts, and you're going to be changing lives for years to come. So congratulations to you and Annie for doing that. That's awesome. You want to plug that event in Denver? Do you got a location and date all set up? I think you said January, but you want to put the date down, or you don't have it yet? Okay.
We don't have any of that set up yet, but if anyone wants to learn more about that, they can email me at julie@goodegginvestments.com, and we will put them on the list to be notified when the time comes. But yeah.
Very, very cool. All right. And you still, I'm guessing you're still doing this. You're still how many deals do you want to do a year? Do you have a number? Do you have a goal, or is it a deal or money raise? I'm not sure how you track it.
Kind of both, but honestly, I wouldn't say that, it's more of a money raise, I would say, than deals. Because in our opinion, the more that we're able to raise, the more lives we're able to impact, right?
Okay.
So, if we raise $10 million this year, think of all those lives of all those people who are going to benefit from passive investing. On the flip side, if we did 4 deals, but we only raised, $4 million, maybe not so much, so
very cool.
really for us, it's about how many lives can we impact by getting people to actually, get to the point of feeling not comfortable and actually making the move and getting into these deals as a passive. So yeah.
That's awesome. So so I'll ask, do you have a goal for how many people you want to impact in 19?
We don't have a number for that, but I would say, as far as like how much we want to raise, we're just close near to the 10 million mark, and that's
Okay.
over between, my company when I started about 18 months ago till now.
Yep.
So it's about 10 million. So I would say that if we could do 10 million this year in 1 year, as opposed to 18 months, that would feel really great for us. So
Yeah.
yeah.
That's awesome. Well, good for you. So, how could people get a hold of you? Because you're speaking all over the place. Good Egg Investments is a brand that is growing. How can they follow you? Your YouTube channel, your site, all of that. Please share away so people can
Yep.
find you.
Yep. So our website, it's pretty simple. Our website is just goodegginvestments.com. And, you can look for us on Facebook, Good Egg Investments. Same for YouTube. We have a YouTube channel. We're on Instagram. You can just look for @Good Egg Investments. And my personal email is julie@goodegginvestments.com. And, happy to talk about real estate anytime. Love what I do. So, don't be afraid to reach out.
Very, very cool, Julie. This has been a lot of fun. Any last comments you want to say about partnerships? We sort of hinted at that, but I don't know if we gave it its due. Anything you want to talk about partnerships and why they're solid and why they help?
Yeah. I mean, I guess real quickly, I just want to say that, if there's anyone out there who, is looking to do what we do, I would highly recommend, considering partnerships. And really, I think where that starts with, though, is really understanding who you are and knowing who you are inside and knowing what your strengths are and knowing what your weaknesses are. And then trying to find partners who sort of fill in the blanks and fill in your weaknesses, so to speak, and whose strengths are your weaknesses. And together you would end up with this power team of people who are just strong at everything that they do. So rather than focusing on, trying to get better at something that's not a strength for you, go out there and do yourself a favor and do them a favor and partner up together and do a deal and get a deal done that way. I can't talk enough about the power of partnerships. It's really helped me to get from, where I was 18 months ago, still working my job, and trying to hustle and get to the point where I am now, where I, have long since quit my job about a year ago. And, I'm closing all these deals, and really it comes from that power of being able to leverage other people's expertise. So highly recommend that if anyone's thinking about being on the active side.
Yeah, and I think how you put the analogy of you and Annie sort of snapping together like puzzle pieces is the way that a partnership should work. Don't go out and look for one that's a mirror image or the same piece. That's not helping anyone, right? Be stronger together and
That's
have
great.
those discussions. So
Yes.
thank you for being on the show and everything you're doing, and congratulations on what you've done. And I look forward to watching you two do just amazing things and help and impact mothers' lives going forward. So thank you very much.
Thank you so much for having me, Michael.
You got it. Have a great day.
You too.